stay with me.
Okay, cool. All right, so I will let Wendy introduce herself, but first just let me say thank you so much, Wendy, for being here again. They might have heard me say that before, but I am so grateful because I know that people are asking us questions and we are recording this. So even beyond, so those of you who are on camera, you should know that we are recording it. So if you want to shut your cameras off for that reason, I can appreciate that, that's fine. But we are recording it so that we can share this out with the rest of the congregation on social media, and they'll be able to get the same wonderful information that Wendy is bringing us today. And as you might have heard me talking about with Wendy, she is interested in talking to other churches. So if there's any feedback you have for her, you can send that to me or probably mention it today if we have time, to just let Wendy know what's the most helpful information for us. Be sure to share any questions that you have. We will have a Q&A time at the end. Is that good?
That sound like a plan?
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy, for introducing yourself. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Wendy Berghorst, and I am a nurse, public health nurse with Minnesota Department of Health. I've been at the Department of Health for a couple of years now. And now with COVID, people got reassigned, and so I'm with the Faith and Cultural and Disabilities Community Outreach Group. Just to give you a little background of, I've told Pastor Kirsten this, is that I am a native Lutheran. I grew up in Anoka and attended Zion Lutheran Church, a large Lutheran church my whole life, and taught Sunday school and sang in the choir and all that. And I thought, as these, they've asked people that are working on in the community to be part of helping share information about vaccines and do these presentations. And I thought, I'll have to do the demographics that fit me, you know, the rural white Lutheran. So anyways, it's my pleasure to be with you here today. And I just thought I really understand a lot of probably where you're from and things like that. So anyways, what I have to share with you is really sort of what I hope is the latest information about COVID-19 vaccine and opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. And a big part of this is really to help get the information out so that we all have accurate information that we could share with others in the community. So the goal is to really give an update about the COVID-19 vaccine, but look at questions and concerns that people have, and look at how I'm going to talk a little bit just about what is a vaccine, how they're made, why they're safe, and how they work. And then we can keep this in mind and let me know if you have any questions. And since it sounds like we have a small group, if you want to keep an eye, you could always put something in the chat room, and then Pastor Kirsten, we can talk about it too at the point if need be. So whatever's easier for everyone. You know, this is new, and part of this is that we're really trying to, as a state public health agency, that recognize that all of our communities owe its existence and vitality to generations around the world who have contributed their hopes, dreams, and energies to making the history that led to this moment. So we know that some of us were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hopes of a better life, and that some have lived on the land for more generations than can be counted. So part of this is that truth and acknowledgement are really critical. We're really trying to build mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. And so we are beginning this PowerPoint and that we want to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We are standing on the ancestral lands of Dakota people. We want to acknowledge the Dakota and the Ojibwe, the Ho-Chunk, and the other nations of people who are also called this place home. We want to pay respects to their elders, past and present. So let's like to take a moment to consider the treaties made by the tribal nations that entitle the non-native people to live and work on traditional native lands. Consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us here together. And join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. So the state of Minnesota and the Department of Health recognize that there is trauma and medical abuse that happens to our Black, Indigenous, people of color, disability, and LGBTQ plus communities, some of which the state has played a role in leading to distrust in medicine and public health. So at Department of Health, the local public health, medical providers, and other partners, we really are trying to actively work on rebuilding trust with these communities and looking for ways to bring community members' voices to the table. So looking at our diverse communities is a long way from being healed. For those of you that bear the weight and impact of these traumas, thank you for your presence and strength today. And if we're looking to be allies like we are, just to recognize that the trauma has occurred and lead into it, and to show understanding and compassion. And we know that there's many reasons why people experience hesitancy. Discrimination, violence, and injustice are just a few. So as I go through this presentation, I encourage you to view any concerns or questions that come up from the perspective that to take into consideration centuries of injustice. And so for those of us with a foot in public health, we are trying to remember, our goal is to be as transparent as possible and share information openly with all our communities. And we want to really work on getting community input into our processes and build trust so that community members will view us, public health, as a good source of information when you're making decisions about vaccines. So now that there's been time to do some grounding in the larger picture, I'll get on to some of the vaccine basics. I included this, Commissioner Jan Malcolm had this in a presentation recently, and I was just sort of like, I don't need a vaccine. They said, while enjoying life without polio, tetanus, hepatitis. You can read it. And it's like, vaccines have been around for a long time and have made us healthy. So we use vaccines because they really do work to prevent disease, and they help us eliminate worry about getting the disease in the United States. You don't have to get the disease first to build up defenses to fight against a disease. Without getting vaccinated, a person would need to get the disease to get any form of immunity. So one way to keep everyone healthy is widespread vaccination, and vaccinating a community will help stop diseases like COVID-19 from spreading from one person to another and making everyone sick. And I have another slide in the back, or near the end, about herd immunity, just to sort of illustrates when more people get vaccinated, it's really protecting yourself and the community. So what is a vaccine? A vaccine is designed to help prevent disease, and it contains ingredients that give person's body a sample of either a vaccine or bacteria so the body can learn to fight the disease. So it uses the whole germ. There's different vaccines are made in several different ways. So sometimes medical researchers will use the whole germ inside the vaccine, and the germ is weakened or killed so that it doesn't make anyone sick. Or they can use just part of the germ and it still doesn't make anyone sick. Or the vaccine doesn't even have to contain any of the germ, but has instructions and it tells the body how to recognize and fight the germ. And many people do experience side effects after a vaccine, but the vaccines itself cannot make a person sick with the actual disease. So you're gonna hear the Moderna and the Pfizer, they call it mRNA vaccine. It's a messenger ribonucleic acid, and we call it the mRNA vaccine, and it contains information that gives the body instructions to recognize and fight the germ. And so it recreates the certain protein that's part of the virus so that your body builds up immunities, builds up the defenses, builds immunity, builds up the antibodies, so that if you do come in contact with it, you don't get as sick. And the Johnson & Johnson doesn't have either have any live germs, but it uses a weakened common cold virus to carry the instructions to the body to tell it how to recognize and fight it. And it's been modified so it doesn't give anyone the shot, the common cold, but it uses the DNA to make certain parts of the COVID-19 virus. And then it uses a copy of that protein to build up defenses so that your body again builds up the antibodies and immunities. So right now, the COVID vaccines don't contain eggs. These are questions we get a lot. You know, does it contain eggs, pork products, gelatin, latex, preservatives? No, it doesn't. It does have some basic ingredients, including genetic materials and fats, sugars, and liquids to help stabilize it. So I've sort of covered the basics of it. I thought we'd talk a little bit about the safety of the vaccines and how well they work. So when the public health officials realized that COVID-19 was becoming a global disaster, they gathered all the vaccine companies, public health, vaccine experts to start making the vaccine. In the United States, the goal is really to make a vaccine that was safe and worked as soon as they could, while still following all of the safety steps. And with these, public health officials wanted to make sure the vaccine worked in all of our various populations. So they included study participants that reflected the diversity of our population, including race, ethnicity, and various ages and health conditions. Now, the first vaccines have already come out. I mean, really, when you think about it in the last year, a lot of changes, a lot of progress, and it's pretty exciting, but people are a little concerned because how did it go so fast when it's waited so long? And a big part of that is that really there were no steps skipped. And a lot of things happened concurrently versus doing phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. A lot of, they really, nothing was skipped and everything was validated, looking at, are the vaccines safe? Are they working? Are they safe and does it work for approval?
How do they get people to participate?
Oh, you know, how did they get the people to participate in the studies when they were doing them last year? Or not even currently? I think that they recruited them and there was data that showed like they gathered data on the demographics of information, but of interest too. One of my coworkers was part of one of the studies, but she didn't know if she had the actual vaccine or if she had a placebo. So I'm not, that would be very interesting. I think we could look at the CDC website if you're interested, and you can get some more information exactly how they got the people.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think this is where we were. So we know that they actually are working, and that what their vaccines are preventing COVID-19. And sometimes what it does too is that they're saying, people are asking questions too about whether what's the best one or not. And basically the talking point or is whatever one that you can get. Because what the big difference is that you've got 3 different manufacturers making them. How they're stored is part of that. I think the Pfizer is the ultra freezer cold one. Moderna can be in a regular freezer, where Johnson & Johnson can be in the refrigerator. So access is a lot easier to store it and get it out in the community. So, and then the Johnson & Johnson is only 1 dose and the other 2 are 2 doses, either 2 to 3 weeks apart. So, but there are some things that we still are learning. We don't know we know that the vaccines are working at preventing people from getting sick, but we don't have enough data yet in how if they're going to still spread the disease to others that get infected. Also, how are we going to need tetanus or boosters? I think of the tetanus because we have to get a booster every 10 years. I mean, it might be like the flu shot and in another year, we're going to have to do it again. I'm not sure. So I think there's still a lot of information out that is still being researched and reviewed, and recommendations are coming out. So I just thought I'd include this. I think the biggest thing about getting the vaccines too is that they're effective from keeping you from getting in the from being hospitalized and from death. So now I just wanted to talk a little bit about now that we know that the vaccines are working, how are we getting them out to people? And we know that there's not enough vaccine for everyone at once, but we've made significant changes. Just think in the last 4 months, how things have changed and who's getting it and when. And we're getting more into the state all the time. So currently we know that as of Tuesday, March 30th, every Minnesotan age 16 years and older is eligible to get their shot. And that was a big, I mean, they started with looking at who's our really at-risk population, who's dying from it, then looking at who's out in the community and how we can support, and then went to people with underlying medical conditions and things like that. So
I have a question.
yep.
On that slide, because I just feel like I've heard different things in different places. And
Yep.
like this says on the top, every Minnesotan age 16 years and older is eligible. But then in the bottom part, it says people age 16 years and over with any underlying medical condition. So can you just clarify, like if I know a healthy 16-year-old or up, am I supposed to be sending them to get an appointment, or only people who have underlying medical conditions or like vulnerable people in their house? Like, where's the line there, Wendy?
I would say, I think that what the literal interpretation is, everyone 16 years and older is eligible. I mean, that's what they're saying. But when you look at, there's a difference between being eligible and getting access to it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
And so what a lot of the providers have been told is they have been encouraged to continue to prioritize within their healthcare system those that are at higher risk. And I think that
Sorry, that's my computer. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
So I think that you're right. You could, if someone's 16 and older, they can sure register on the vaccine connector and get their name into the list. But accessing it, so when you look at trying to access it, I mean, where to get the vaccine, first of all, there's what I think the message needs to be clear, just to help recognize, is you've got your healthcare provider is one key resource. So a lot of people now are finally getting notices from their clinics saying, you know, you're eligible to get the vaccine, call and schedule an appointment. Well, people have also registered on the vaccine connector, which is on the state website, and that especially, so what that does though, is that it gets you into the list for the state run vaccine sites. And it's sort of a little bit of a raffle, I think, whether if you get applied, because I'm sure you've all heard, I mean, I've got a couple of friends that drove up to Fargo and got it, you know, or went up to Booth. So people are going different places. So it just depends. And then, or else, another way to get it is to use the vaccine locator. And so I put some slides on in here for that. So this is the vaccine connector. And if you've got friends or neighbors and people that, I would encourage everyone to go on to the vaccine connector and register for it. And you could, as a church too, if you've got people that don't use a computer or anything like that, I would encourage them, you know, use some of your volunteers and help people sign up for that. Because then people get notified if they get selected, and they really do try to look at geographic location and age and any risk factors to prioritize. We also, just to let you know that there's COVID community coordinators across the state too that are available to help people if you have people within different communities that are specific that if you needed Latino or Spanish or whatever, different things.
So how would we find those people if we needed a resource like that?
Okay, the website is right on that screen right there, and I'll send you this part. Okay. But
okay,
it's
great.
Yeah, yep. So I'll send that out to you, but it's right on the website. And I don't think I made a screenshot of that, because here's the vaccine location. So this is another, this is a third way to find out. So you're in the St. Cloud. So I tried to pull up St. Cloud and then look, and then I put in the zip code, and then over there, it's like, you've got the Walmart. So a lot of times the vaccines are coming into the state by the federal government, by the state allocation, and then coming into healthcare systems. And then you're gonna see that we just got a grant from FEMA, and there's gonna be a large, there you're gonna use the fairgrounds to really target zip codes that have high social vulnerability index within the cities here or around the metro area. Yeah, but part of that too is that 1,000 vaccines a day can go out into the community, and they're going to be buses. They're redoing some transit buses so that they can be vaccination sites. And I think you can even apply to have one like come to your area if you have a large community. So let's see if I've got that. So it's really trying to partner. You've got your name on the list, I think, didn't you, to be a vaccine?
Yeah, actually Benton County, which is the county we're actually in, we're right on the line between Benton and Stearns and Sherburne. But Benton County, which has the lowest rates of all three of those counties, actually is going to use us as a mobile site. So they're coming here to Salem. I don't know the dates of that. I should actually see if I can find out while we're on this.
Yeah.
But yes, Pastor Tim has been working with them to finalize that. So Ellen and Joe, if you haven't gotten your vaccine yet, that would be an option, is that potentially you could come to Salem and get one when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, we just thought, and just I wanted to keep this slide in just to be cautious because people are out scamming. So just wanted to always be aware. So always the vaccine is free. It's recommended for everyone. You need to get the doses if it's a 2-dose, you do really want to get both doses, or if it's just the one. But it's also okay to take your time in deciding about getting it. And as with any vaccine, some people have, I'm sure you've talked to your friends or heard from some people have sore arms, muscle aches, headache, tired. It means the vaccine is working. And so your body's building up immunities, and really the serious adverse events and severe allergic reactions are rare. Here, I pulled up the data. So here's the statewide data. I have to look over here because I put it at, to read the big screen. This was as of April 7th. People with at least one vaccine dose statewide, 44%. People that have completed it, 29. And then I pulled it just to see, here's Benton at 27 and 20. Stearns at 39 and 28. And then Sherburne at 27 and 18. So yeah, a little lower.
I missed that first slide. Can you show me Benton? I'm sorry, I missed
it. Right here.
Okay,
got it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize that. I thought, oh, let's look and see what it says. So
yeah, I know people who are coming to Benton County to go for the leftovers at pharmacies every day because they've got leftovers and open appointments all the time. So
we
that's kind of sad. I'm glad people are using them, but
yeah. Yeah, isn't it? So what is it, do you think? Is it, so I mean, part of why we're doing these too is just to make sure that people have good information and accurate information. So let's see here.
Ellen and Joe, do you have any good ideas? Why do you think it's a lower vaccination rate in these counties?
I have no idea. We have been vaccinated
Oh, good job.
and we live
Good.
in Sherburne County.
Are you?
We're at St. Benedict Village, and they came on site.
Oh, did they?
For
Yeah.
2.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah. I just thought I included this because this is just sort of showing herd immunity. Just like when we get more people vaccinated, how it does protect you and less people can get infected. But also this next slide just really says that, you know, when you look at the pandemic, I mean, it's sort of the Swiss cheese respiratory virus. I mean, there are still some holes in it. We can do everything and it doesn't mean you're 100% effective that you're not going to get it, because there are still, I mean, we're hearing still that there are people that are testing positive after they've had the vaccine, or so some of that, but it's just, how can you mitigate your risk? How can you lower your risk? You know, you still need to physically distance. You still need to wear your mask, wash your hands. You know, watch your space. Outside is still better than being inside. Ventilation, how we can support getting the vaccines. So it's a lot of different parts to this.
It
I like
seems
that
on-
image. Sorry, Joe.
I like it too. That's why I shared it, yeah.
It seems on the national news, they play up how people are resisting getting vaccinated because of the side effects.
Yeah.
And yet the side effects are nothing compared to the disease itself.
Correct.
So I don't know if they're just using that as an excuse or if they're just dumb.
Oh my. I do think that in this area, all 3 counties, especially Stearns, which is where I live in Stearns, but are very politically conservative. And sadly, it seems like there's a correlation between
There
your
is.
politics and your willingness to get the vaccine, which
Yeah.
I feel is sad, but
Yeah,
it seems to
yeah.
be true. Am I off base, or does that?
No, I think that's really true. I agree. Yes, there seems to be, and there was just some headline, I didn't want to put some of the latest research into these presentation or whatever. But it was like Republicans and conservatives are the lowest to get it. And so it's part of it. So at this point, I just want to say that we're hopeful, but we're not done with COVID-19 yet, because with the new variants that are coming too, I mean, it seems like the vaccines are working there, but there is just something that came across MDH just over the Friday or Saturday. I don't know, it probably is in the news. I haven't looked at the paper yet today, but there was some middle school wrestling tournament in Sioux Falls that has a really high incidence now. And it's like, okay, so we're seeing, you know, the cases are still going up, unfortunately. And we're tired. People are tired. I mean, we've got people have COVID fatigue. So it still makes smart decisions. We don't know for sure when we'll be back to normal.
Wendy, can I ask a question here?
Sure, of course.
So I'm a parent of 2 elementary age children, 3rd and 4th grade. And I'm having some feelings about the fact, and I realize there's a lot of controversy and strong feelings on all sides of whether or not children are in school. I would like to first say that, of course, I think the healthiest place for them is to be in school in terms of their mental health. If that is what your family has chosen rather than homeschool.
Right.
But I also think that as a mom of 2 kids who do go to public school full-time normally, I was much more comfortable with the standards as they were set at the beginning of the year. And now I'm watching those case numbers go above those standards and they're still full time in school. And I don't quite know what to do about it because I can take them out of their classroom and put them into a distance learning model, which is an option on the table for us. And I'm willing to be at home. So it's not about me being with them
Right.
as much as it is, although that's obviously a stressor, but it's more about the fact that I don't really want to separate them from their teacher and classes at this late date in the year. And, but the school district's guidelines are allowing them to keep doing this. And I am really uncomfortable with that. So I don't know if you can talk to that at all, but as a parent, and I'm sure there are parents in other opinions, but I don't mind that one being at least talked about. I would really like that. If you have thoughts.
I don't know. I totally understand I totally track what you're saying, and I totally get it. Yeah. And I know that school districts are really struggling how they can best provide education and meet their needs of their students. Since I don't have young kids, I have to admit that I'm not as tracking of it. I'm just thankful in a way that I'm not, to be honest. I mean,
Well, that's like
That
me
can
being
be so
thankful I don't
hard.
have toddlers right now.
I know. I sort of
I
like,
feel really badly for
I
those
don't know
parents.
how I would do it, to be honest with you.
No.
It's well, I guess it's really talking with your school district staff too. The leadership at that school or school district to see where they're at on that.
Mhm.
It's tough.
Okay.
I don't know. And the thing of it is that the schools are all different and they're all doing things differently. So I don't, I have no idea who's doing what. Or like,
Well,
because some of them have hybrid, or they have like 2 days in and 1 day at home and 1 day off. And it's like, I don't even know what's all going on.
well, it also depends on the age of your children, if they're in elementary, middle, or high school. Although right now, all of the schools that I'm aware of in our area, anywhere
Yeah.
within a half an hour of here, are full time at school for
Really?
elementary age students, and that high
Okay.
schools are 4 days a week at the minimum.
High school, okay.
So I'm
It's
I guess-
interesting. I'm wondering,
Yeah.
do you know if you've got any of do you have very much of the B117 variant up there?
I think we do, but I don't really know the stats on that. I mean, I think my concern is that because the guidelines are different and the kids can stay in school, there's also a perception in the community that it's not as bad as it was because the kids are still in school. So I feel like it's sort of a double-edged sword. There's just the fact that I'm worried about my community's safety and the kids being in school, and I want to take my kids out of that situation, not because I'm extremely worried about their health, although I don't love that. I'm more worried about them being spreaders, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, the headlines are nothing because the kids get to be in school full time. And so I think people are less aware of how high the caseload is, like that it's way above where it should be they should be in distance learning according to the original guidelines.
Right. I agree.
I'm pulling my hair out a little bit on that one, and it's both as a parent and a community leader.
I'm wondering what the school district, I mean, it's like, what is their threshold? Or because they're supposed to be monitoring all of those things, really. And
and I'm sure they are. I have talked to our elementary principal and said that, and I need to probably reach out to the district, which I can. I have a relationship with them too, but I just wanted to bring it up here because I think this is that conversation is how do we stay aware of what's really happening when we hear our grandkids or our neighbors' kids are in school. Oh, so it must not be too big of a deal. I do think that's another layer.
In the state news, they talk about the schools and it's the activities outside of the classroom that are having the virus occur. And it seems like that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
That the education part is the important part. Playing sports has absolutely nothing to do with the education part. I
Well, it
realize
does,
there's
it does.
sociability and all that.
Yeah.
But so
Oh, I
what?
agree. But it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. The
There's
app,
definitely parents who will argue that the mental health concerns are there if they don't have sporting and activities, which you can agree or disagree with, but that is the statement that's made. And I can appreciate that as kids who've been trapped in my house. I mean, there's a point at which they need to get out of my house and they need to be doing some sort of structured activity that's not just I'm the only one in charge of. I appreciate that.
yeah, really, it's been a long year. Oh,
Right. But at the same time, I hear you, Joe, and I think that's the real
Yeah.
struggle for families is how do we balance all that? Not to mention most of us are two-parent working families at this point in
It's
Mhm.
just like
America's history.
adults have to go to the bar.
Yeah, really.
Break at home.
Recreation.
You
Yeah.
don't have to go to the bar.
No. Yeah. They don't need to, yeah. And now you've got all the school things of prom and graduation and all those things coming on too, so.
Yeah. And I don't want those to be taken away from these seniors who've already lost so much,
Mhm.
but the case numbers don't indicate that that's a great idea.
I know,
So-
I know. So, and it's sort of like some of the recommendations are like postpone it, do it later this summer, or do it outside, or there people can be creative in how they try to honor those traditions and continue to provide them. So I don't know, it's hard to say. So that's basically what I have about the vaccine. There's, as we brought up, there's a lot of different feelings about it, and they're all valid.
One
So,
question I want to ask you
yes,
concerns the non-white population.
Right.
How they keep talking about the exposure rate is so much higher, and yet they're so resistant to taking the vaccine. It just seems contradictory. If you're high risk by race, you ought to be going the other way and be demanding more rather than refusing less. It's crazy.
yeah. The dynamics of all of that are much more complicated and intense than I've ever realized this past year. I mean, I can hear what you're saying there, but I think that the part of this is some of that implicit bias and things that our other communities have experienced, and concern, trust of the system, and distrust, the whole continuum. People really vary. And so part of this process is really trying to understand where everyone's at and give them the information to make decisions. And I'll just share this. I have a son that's 31 that I had, and he just turned yesterday. It was his birthday, and went out, and he's like gonna sit on getting the vaccine. He's not in a rush. And it's like, Michael, it's so hard. And he goes, I just want to wait and see. I don't know. What is it going to affect the body?
Hit him over the head with a hammer.
I know. I wish. I wish. And it's so interesting because he's very different politically, and he's sort of, I don't know. Everyone's at their own space, so it can be challenging and it can be trying, but it's like I don't need it in my own family.
Can you talk a little bit to the recent Johnson & Johnson problems? Because
No, I saw that. Yeah.
people in my family have just recently have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Did they?
Yeah.
I know about as much as you've been reading also. They haven't, from the state point of view, they haven't given us, let me look and see. I might have some other additional information, but I think it's, at least in Minnesota at this point, I mean, there's a couple of states now that have sort of stopped it, right?
Right. And that makes it more concerning.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and this came up, like my daughter got the Johnson and Johnson, and then when they opened it up, my two grandsons were eligible for shots, and so
Mhm.
they both got them. And all three of them have the Johnson and Johnson. As far as
Yeah.
I know, only one of them had side effects that were
Mhm.
noticeable and that he stayed home from work for a day.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that, and a lot of people have gotten side effects from like their typically the second dose of the vaccine, if you're getting the 2 doses. But everyone is so different too. So I think I really do believe, my gut is that it is extremely rare, but there's always going to be someone that has a reaction, and maybe, I don't know. Yeah. At this point, I know that in Minnesota, obviously, we haven't heard anything that they're taking it off or doing anything like that. So I'm sure that didn't quite answer your question, Ellen, but
Well, my other question is now, we still have one person in our family circle that needs to get vaccinated, and she's going to be vaccinated, the first one on Tuesday at the fairgrounds.
oh, is she?
Um, so how long do we, I mean, we do get together, but we all wear masks, we're outside, we try to social distance. But once everyone is vaccinated, can we then move indoors?
Yeah, yep, you can. Yeah, the latest is like 2 weeks after the last person gets vaccinated, and you can have, if everyone's vaccinated, I mean, they're saying inside private gatherings, 15 people. But I mean, it also is what are you comfortable with? And if you're all family members, then you know that if everyone's been vaccinated, and everyone is monitoring themselves for any symptoms, that everyone's healthy, you know, still stick with, if you're not feeling good, stay home. So you don't need to wear masks after that. That's the latest CDC thing.
You
So
wouldn't have to, even indoors, you wouldn't have to wear a
No.
mask?
not if everyone's vaccinated and no one has symptoms.
Our daughter will insist on it.
Well, that's okay. See, it's like, it's comfort level. What are you comfortable with? How much risk are you willing to, assume, and how do you want to protect everyone? So,
Yeah, we've not had many in-person family things through this last year.
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking forward to, even if it's
oh,
outdoors.
I'm sure. Yeah.
We were surprised though, when they changed the guideline, that everybody, I think they went through the connector
Mm-hmm.
and signed up. My daughter got a message almost right away and had an appointment for the convention center. And then I think 2 days ago, my oldest grandson texted me that he got a shot at his work. And
That's right. I forgot to add that. Yeah, because a lot of employers, some of the larger companies and things like that are doing that, or have
yeah,
said,
he said he was, they had extra and he was sort of an alternate
yeah.
chosen, but,
Yeah.
and then my youngest grandson, who is 20, got his vaccination the next day. So I guess if you sign up, it is not that hard to get.
No, it isn't. And that's where the message is like, get out, or definitely sign up and encourage. I know that it's 10:20, and isn't that, Pastor? We need to.
Yeah, I was about to say, you guys, if you want to, you can keep
No,
talking, but
that's fine.
I'm gonna have to
You-
leave just to be ready for 10:30 worship.
Okay.
But Wendy, I'm so grateful. Do you have a last word that you want to wrap this up on, or shall I just let you guys do that while I exit?
Well, I think that's actually all I have. So feel free to send me any questions, or you've got my email address, and it's been a pleasure to be talking with you today. and continue to get the word out. So,
Thank you for your time.
oh, you're
Yes.
welcome. You're
Thank you
welcome.
very-
Do you want the PowerPoint? I'll send you the PowerPoint and you can share it. Yeah.
That would be great. And I will, like I said before, share this video. So we will
Okay.
spread the word further than what we got
Okay.
today. And
Okay.
please send me your email so that,
Okay, well,
you know, and I can
will.
pass that on. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
God
Thank you very
bless.
much.
Thanks. Bye.